quantum computing is going to be the next big thing, right after AI and nuclear power. So my boss called me and wanted to make sure that I'm going to give something very simple and catchy, so I chose quantum physics as my topic. I want to share with you a model that we built and we've been using for quite a while now. It has proven very effective at reducing safety costs and drive structural improvements in companies. As you may know, traditional safety methods, which rely on constant supervision, are costly and resource intensive. Moreover, in our line of work, we face high turnover and we got a lot of travelers. So that's because, sometimes to hire experienced global workforce, sometimes hard to come by. So we hire people from all over the country and sometimes from other countries. At this point, we can more disrupt our operational continuity. Now, you got a safety paradox. On one hand, nobody wants company liability in the form of injury or miscompliance. But on the other hand, cutting costs is always one of the priorities of the companies. It's up to us to find the balance and how to bridge between the two. I want you to imagine an organization where safety is so ingrained in its culture that it's become second nature to everyone. It's no longer a forced process. It's no longer something that everybody needs to follow, but an embedded part of who the company is. Whenever you achieve such an almost self-sustaining system, and placing the battery to indicate almost self-sustaining, it reduces dependency on direct supervision, and it ensures that even when new people come and go, safety remains a constant, intuitive part of the operations. Behavioral-wise, I want to ask you, why don't you hire leader officers? How is it throwing garbage on the floor different from safety? Why is it not littering second nature to everyone, but when safety is not always the case? In 2023, we had over 5,000 fatalities work-related in the US alone. This tells us that there's still work to be done. Understanding these behavioral patterns will help us tap into those principles that govern how energy and behavior interact on a fundamental level. Just like in physics, where you can take energy, enhance it, and direct it. For example, in hydraulics, where you can take an hydraulic jack to lift the car. You apply small force on the lever, and the car is being lifted. Applying small force to get big results, with the right tool, we can do the same thing with behavior. Let's describe the general evolution of building a safety culture. I want you to imagine you're teaching your child to cross the street. You're going to initially hold their hand, and you're going to give them very strict set of instructions. This is exactly like building a safety culture. You have workers that are not always aware of the risks around them, not always aware of the mitigations. And let's say they do. They're not always using them. For this, we need strong leadership and structured programs to act as guardrails. We don't want any loose cannons to punch a hole in the ship or, God forbid, hurt themselves. As you may know, it takes only one serious incident to halt the business. As your child gains more experience, starting to internalize those safety lessons that you taught him, building more confidence, he's now looking both ways before crossing the street, even without you prompting him. This is the shift in accountability that we want to see in our workplace. We want our workers to wear their safety harness 100% of the time before working at height. We want them to wear the proper PPE before coming in contact with chemical contaminated objects. This is the shift in accountability that we want to see from that external control of the manager to that internal ownership of the work. Now, when same behaviors are not only expected, but they're also acknowledged and rewarded, it reinforces those same behaviors and it encourages others to follow. This is the part where safe behaviors are so ingrained in one place that then they can be replicated to other places without the requirement of rebuilding the entire safety framework. For example, we can copy this to other sites, other departments, and sometimes other countries. We're currently working with a few global clients who have learned to clone this model overseas. This is the part where unsafe behaviors are corrected, not just by management or safety professionals, by the co-workers who are actively encouraging those same behaviors within the team. Now, the ROI is lower supervision costs, higher efficiency with behavioral corrections, and lower incident rate. Those were outlines of what we want to achieve. We are using quantum physics, and in particular lasers, to model those implementation stages. So I want to be a little bit informative today and teach you how does laser works. You have a very simple model of an atom. You have the nucleus in the middle and energy levels around it. And the electron sits on the first energy level. We're using a battery to excite the atom, and you want to have the electron to jump to a higher energy level. This stage is called excitation. As the electron falls back down, it emits a photon. This stage is called spontaneous emission, as the electron wants to relieve some of the energy, and it spontaneously emits a photon, a particle of light. Now, adding two atoms, the first photon, spontaneously emitted by the atom, meets on its way another electron. And the second electron, on the way down, now the interesting thing happens, it emits two identical photons. This stage is called stimulated emission. Two identical photons in their frequency, wavelength, in coherence. All you got to do is add mirrors, have the photons jump back and forward, hit more and more atoms, exciting more and more electrons, creating more and more photons. Light is trapped inside. Now, open the right side slit on the side, and you get laser. Maybe by now you're already in the feel of where am I going with this analogy. Applying energy enhancement to create a ray of light that can be seen 3 miles and sometimes more, just by using 1.5 volt battery. Let's break down the stages and see how it relates to our analogy of building a sustainable safety culture. First stage, excitation. Just like we pump energy into the atom, having the electron to jump to a higher energy level, again, the excitation, this stage is where professional development programs and targeted trainings comes into play. We've created a training package, and we can achieve this milestone in about a month or two. That's it. Those trainings excite the leaders, providing them with the skill, the knowledge, and the motivation to champion safety in their teams. Now, there's a linear relation between level of knowledge and potential influence. The more our leaders are knowledgeable, the more their potential to influence their teams in the field. In the spontaneous emission stage, just like excited atoms emit photons of light, remember the electron falls down and emit photon of light, our leaders, our excited leaders, starting to emit safe behavior. Spontaneous emission here comes in the form of constantly demonstrating those safe practices. We will teach our leaders not to talk about safety. When you read a list of do's and don'ts, you can create antagonized feelings. We will teach our leaders to act safely. We want them to incorporate safety as part of their day-to-day and have the workers mimic their behavior, sometimes even without noticing. Those leaders who are well excited, now spontaneously emit safety as part of their day-to-day, will be also measured by their safety performance and not just by their schedule or quality of work. In the stimulated emission stage, remember the electron falls down, created a photon, hits another electron on the way down and creating two identical photons. This is where those workers who have embraced those safe practices are actively encouraging and inspires others to do the same. This stage becomes a peer-to-peer phenomenon. I want to give you a bad example for peer-to-peer phenomenon and how powerful it is. Imagine you have a worker that undergoes 5 days of training. Quality, safety, professional trainings, orientation, and then he starts his first day at the job. During this training, the instructor tells him that he's got to wear his hard hat at all times. Otherwise, he might get fired or get injured. The excited worker started his first day at the job, comes to the field, guess what? Nobody's wearing the hard hat. How long do you think his hard hat will stay on? Probably be good for 2 seconds and 2 minutes, but it's not going to be there by the end of the day. This is how powerful peer-to-peer phenomena, and this is the thing that we want to harness here. This stage is not just leading by example anymore. It's not up to the leaders anymore. It's about promoting those safe practices within the team. Now, when someone receives a positive recognition for his safe behavior, it's not just a pat on the back for him, but it's sending out a signal to everyone that safety is valued, and it encourages others to do the same. In the optically resonant stage, this is where photons are jumping back and forward, hitting mirrors, creating more and more photons. This is where light is becoming increasingly coherent and powerful. This is where our safety ecosystem, those actions are seen by everyone. I mean, different teams, different workers see the same behavior. It's resonating between the different personnel. It's no longer a forced process. It's a natural way of operating. There's the story about the scientist who was doing an experiment on the 5 monkeys, a behavioral experiment. Scientists put 5 monkeys in a room, added a ladder and bananas on the ladder. Once the monkeys entered the room, they all jumped on the ladder trying to reach for the bananas. The scientists opened sprinklers and got all the monkeys wet. They tried once, they tried twice, they realized they're just going to get wet every time, they just stopped. After a week, the scientists had replaced one of the monkeys with a new monkey. The new monkey went in the room, looked at the bananas, jumped on the ladder. All the other monkeys grabbed him by his feet, preventing him from doing so. They already know what's going to happen. He tried once, he tried twice. realized it's not going to happen there. After a few weeks, all the monkeys were replaced. And currently, all the monkeys in the room never got wet. Another monkey was introduced to the room. Went in the room, looked at the bananas, looked at the other monkeys, asking them, guys, why isn't nobody reaching for the bananas? One of the monkeys told him, we don't know, but this is how we do things around here. So this is how behavior becomes a norm, which is so ingrained that you sometimes even can't explain it. The first laser was invented in 1960 by a young physicist from California. His name was Theodore Neumann. His work relied on Albert Einstein's 1905 paper, which first described the photoelectric effect. Scientists back then were shining UV light on crystals that created electricity. Only much later, more and more scientists came up with a newer model of the atom, until the model that we know today, which incorporates quantum physics. The two cornerstones of quantum physics is, one, light is not a single linear wave. It is made out of packets of light, small quantas of light. We know them today as photons. Those photons, we can measure their wavelength and know their color. The second cornerstone of quantum physics is electron, which is a particle that have mass, can sometimes act like wave. This helps me explain the next phenomenon. Quantum tunneling. In the quantum world, particles can move through barriers that would seem impossible, just like you walking through a wall. This is a superposition model of an atom. You have two lobes, which represents all the possibilities where an electron can be in any given moment. But electrons, as we said, have mass. They have trajectory. How can they pass this solid, dense nucleus? Just by acting as a wave, they can bypass this barrier and jump from one lobe to the other. This gives us a great architecture of thinking about how can we incorporate new hires into our existing culture. There's a sort of barrier that they need to overcome. So through well-designed mentorship programs, we can use our experienced workforce to help guide and support the new hires. We can build a sort of tunnel to bypass this initial behavioral barrier just by using our existing workforce and not adding any additional resources. As part of our model, we have built an onboarding process that helps expedite the safe placement of the worker. The last phenomenon that I want to talk to you today is quantum entanglement. You remember those two photons that were created in the stimulated emission? They were created identical in their wavelength and frequency, and they're also coherent. Those two photons are not just identical, but they're also entangled forever. Meaning, no matter how far they will be from one another, whatever you will do to the first photon will influence the second photon, faster than the speed of light. Since Einstein's theory said nothing can move faster than the speed of light, he was pretty spooked about it, so he called it spooky action in the distance. This gives us a great idea on thinking about how we can facilitate seamless knowledge sharing and the spread of best practices between different teams, even when those teams are far apart from each other. We have built a safety network that we can have those teams learn from each other's successes or failures rather than operating in silos. Using this network, whenever you have a change in procedure or a new procedure, due to a learning in one of the teams, all the other teams will be influenced as if they were entangled. Another interesting side effect to that phenomenon is whenever your worker eventually leaves your company and starting to work somewhere else, he takes this embedded culture with him, now creating a ripple effect that can go beyond your company's boundaries. So, do you just want to minimize risks? Or you're into building a culture of awareness, responsibility, and continuous improvement? In our growing industry, we need to implement more self-sustaining systems that can scale with our business. Whenever you have a workplace where safety is paramount, you can create an environment of trust, respect, and collaboration. Employees feel valued and empowered, which leads to increased productivity, higher morale, and stronger sense of loyalty to the company. Implement the quantum safety system as your competitive edge. Thank you very much.
Thank you.